you all for your beautiful work in this film. Pablo, when you were introducing the film, you spoke of your history with opera, but not specifically of Maria Callas. So it seems like we should start there. And if you could talk a little bit about how that love of opera led to wanting to do some work about Maria Callas.
Yeah, well, first of all, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of moviegoers and cinephiles in here. I don't know if you ever wonder why there aren't many movies about opera. It's so unusual. I was always very curious. So it felt like an interesting challenge. And as I said before, I grew up going to the theater, but I didn't tell you what happened afterwards. We would go back home, and my mother would grab a cassette and put it on it, and said, "This is Callas, this is the real thing, son," and play it. So I grew up looking after her as the major singer that she was. And then I realized that she actually somehow changed the course of opera, not only by her singing, but also by her capacities as a performer. She was a wonderful, wonderful actress too. So there was a very interesting character. And then, you know, I got to know more about her life. It was very interesting too. And then the question was, who's gonna play her, you know? So we met with Angie before for other reasons, other ideas that never really existed at some point. And then when we finished Spencer, we showed her the movie, and I said to her, "Would you play Maria Callas?" And she said, "Hold on, let me think about it." And we talked a couple of days after, and she said, "Yeah, let's do it." So we talked to Steve Knight, and then the movie happened. But it's the kind of project that it's really, you just can't think about a movie about Maria Callas if you don't have the right actress. It would never happen. So here you go.
Angelina, could you maybe say a little bit about what happened in that in the moments between the hold on and the yes, I'd be interested in taking this on?
Well, I've always wanted to work with Pablo, but I was immediately intimidated by the thought of it, because I certainly, now that I know more of her, I realize I didn't know her at all then. Only her music and only what many of us, knew about her and the power of her art. But I listened to her music. You study when you play a real person. You take it so seriously. It's their life, and you are going to have this privilege to breathe into that life and align with that life. And I need to love someone to play them properly. I need to feel like I can. But so it was easy to fall in love with her and to be moved by her music. It was very hard to believe that I could do it. But I believed he wouldn't allow me to not do my best, if that makes sense. Pablo's a very, very strong director who would make sure I had the right training, and he would push me. And so I was willing to jump if he believed I could, but I was terrified.
Pablo, your films have it's a very magical, mercurial mixture of real fact based in research, but mixed in with this lovely, expansive interior imagination. And I'm wondering how I don't know if you articulate what you're doing, but how do you think of the project in terms of that balance when you're approaching it?
That's a whole therapy. That's a good question. this is what it is. When, for example, in the case of Maria Callas, there are, I don't know, say 15, 20 biographies. I read 8 of them. And among those 8, say that 50 or 60% of the content is similar, and there's an agreement and what happened. And then the remaining 30% is really, it varies enormously among them. And that's how you get it. So there's a part of it that you cannot prove. And I've read a lot of biographies, so you can imagine, in my life. And it's incredible how some of them will just put quotes of people that, like, how do you know that? It's like, but they're saying that it's proper, as a proper biography. So that liberty somehow is the one that we took and that we take, because we work in the arbitrarity of fiction. And I think that cinema is not only the only time machine that humans have created, besides literature, but it's also a place where you have a very specific point of view, where you have the camera so close to her as you've seen. You could start to create the illusion that we're seeing what she's seeing, that we're feeling what she's feeling. And that's where cinema can be really magical and can really elevate to a level of abstraction that can be very intimate, especially if you're dealing with a movie where the main character is a singer that basically became the sum of the tragedies that she played on stage. That is the heart of this film. It's someone that she played many operas, but among the most of them that she played, almost all of them were tragedies. So Maria Callas was dead on stage, playing dead on stage for decades when she got the applause. So, and she was very into it, she was a very disciplined singer and really took it very seriously, and she would really embody that tragedy. So we thought on the whole process that we needed to have a movie where she would somehow get to her own death with peace. And I think that Angelina brought something that I did not think before, which was the fact that she always played it with a lot of stoicism. She was very stoic. And sometimes I would say, Angie, why don't we just go a little bit down here? And she was like, I don't think so. I'm like, what do you mean? And it's like, I think she would be stronger here. And I thought that she was right. So she made it more like a stronger character that was not so vulnerable. So that made it somehow, it's sad, but it's also a celebration of her life. And the fact that she was willing to play all tragedies until she became one.
I want to ask a similar question to Ed Lachman, and you just about how you came to determine the look of the film, and whether there were real life photographic references that you used, and how you chose the palette based on reality versus this operatic vision.
Well, actually, Pablo does the research, and Guy, and I just plugged into that. There was so much visual reference. In the film, there's these different textures, the past in black and white, the Super 8 from the people that were closest to us, where she let her, front down, because she was always beautifully composed and groomed, and then, the 35 millimeter color, which is, more or less the present of her life that we reveal. So Pablo just immerses me in his whole office was just every wall had these references to every scene. And so we just develop it. To me, what started to happen is, here was a film about Maria Callas that becomes its own opera. And so then I tried to be true to what I understood about opera, that there was a certain theatrical quality to the reality. And what Pablo said to me was, there's no difference between opera and cinema. So it's the illusion of reality. So that's what I tried to plug into with the color, with the moving camera that Pablo operated. So he was the first audience. He was responding to the performance of the brilliance and the, you know, the embodiment of what Angelina did. So I was just there as an observer.
Would you like to say it's a very modest.
Yeah, this very nice man that you see here, that is so nice. You would see what he's in the set. So
Guy, I'd like you to talk about a similar question, really, about. No, yes, exactly. I don't say no. About research versus imagination and how you combine them to create this beautiful production design.
Thank you. Look, we always, when I say we always, I've done a couple of projects at Pablo, and we've sort of fallen into this really nice method, which is the film sort of gets designed as you'd imagine it would be the first time. So we go through all of the research, you know, Pablo's giving the emphasis on what he wants to show and where the character needs to go, the lead character. So we build sort of a production design based on that, and the color palette to a certain extent comes from that as well. But then comes the exciting bit, and that's when Pablo's ideas come and his inner thoughts, and you sort of get mesmerized. He comes out with these crazy ideas. And that really is the magical texture that you're talking about. So when that happens, we sort of get to design the film again and add these sort of heightened realities at various points where Pablo needs them to be. And that can be a very colorful experience because there are lots of things over the years that have happened that are very, very difficult to pull off, but we always manage to do it. There are a lot of things in the film which I think you sort of take for granted, and that's a good thing, because if you're not noticing it, then it means it works. For example, the piano being pushed through doorways, it's a very, very narrow piano that we made specially because none of the real grand couldn't fit through the doors. We had to move it around overnight. Everyone would come in the next day, we'd be there exhausted, having set up the piano. So to overcome that, we sort of had a trick piano that was this very long, narrow piano. And I was always petrified that these guys were going to shoot it from the wrong angle and the jig was going to be up. You know? So they always managed to find the right angle. There were lots of things like that, little hidden tricks, which were ever such fun to do, really. And if you didn't see them, that's good.
And Alba, again, a similar question for you, because you had the text to work with, but Bruna and Ferruccio are based on also real people, just like Maria Callas. They're not a figment of the creation of the film. So I'm wondering how you melded all those texts to come up with the performance that you did.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know Bruna. I discovered Bruna thanks to the script, because I knew already very well the story of Maria Callas, but Bruna, nobody knows about Bruna and Ferruccio, so I discovered them thanks the script, and then I started to do little research, but at the end I arrived at the point that Bruna is a sort of shadow of Maria that tried all her life to erase herself from every picture, from, you know, and there are some stories about her. For example, she changed her hairdresser because this woman keep telling her too many questions about Maria, you know. So she was really someone very discreet and austere, and so I started from the research, and then I understand that I have just to be, you know, to find the soul of this character that is very, you know, that interested me a lot, because it's someone that stays always 2 steps behind. And I found the truth of my character thanks to Angelina, because she was so believable that she allowed me to be with her always, with the energy that she brings on set. And so that was the process.
She make great omelets.
Yes, this is our story. May I tell the story? Because he's an incredible director and he really cares about every detail. And he really wants everything for real. So I have to do omelets. And I know how to do an omelet, but I don't know how to flip an omelet. And he said, you should flip an omelet for real. So he sent me to a person in Milano, a big master, a chef, and for hours we just trained. He trained me. And then the production sent to my place in Budapest, where I stayed at the time, many eggs. And a beautiful, how do you say it? Like,
She ended up doing a double flip, you know how that.
and then at the end, I can do a monologue, do it.
I want to talk about singing. I know that acting in itself is a vulnerable thing, but to me, I feel like singing is the most directly, emotionally vulnerable mode of performance. So I'm wondering if you can just talk a little bit about what it was like, if that was true for you, and what it was like to have to sing as part of this performance.
So I made the mistake of thinking in the beginning when he asked me if you can sing a little, and I thought, well, like movie sing, like I could sing a bit, I guess, you know, but I figured we just, and then very quickly realized you can't fake sing opera. Not that I wanted to fake sing anything, but I didn't really think I was going to be asked to actually sing. Somehow it just didn't cross my mind. I don't know why. I didn't completely understand until I was standing in this room and Pablo had met so many different teachers and then he found one to begin. And the first time he said, okay, plant your feet, because he took me seriously as a singer, which was very moving to me already. And he said, take a deep breath and then start to make sounds. And I started crying. Because I think we all hold so much in that we don't really let out. We don't let our full voice out. We don't let our full sound out. We just don't. It's a lot of where we hold it. So just the beginning of that, just sound, and then to start to discover your own voice, which is such a special thing to do, that I would encourage every single person to take a class and take an opera class. Because once you sing a little bit and they say, and somebody says to you, which I don't know if anybody's ever said this to you, now sing as loud, give everything you've got in your body as loud as you can possibly do it, with all the emotion that you carry inside yourself. And what that feels like as a person, to discover whatever that is in your own, it's very therapeutic, it's a gift. But apparently my therapy had a lot of bumps in the, I was dealing with a lot, trying to figure out how to get those emotions out. But the music's so beautiful, and the bar was so high, and I just felt really honored to have the chance and the classes to learn something. And to be afraid, it's good to be afraid.
No, what it is that when any of us would just get in a car or in your house and you put a David Bowie record or the Beatles, anything you like, we can all sing it along, right? And do a decent thing, because you know that you can't do that with opera, with lyric singing, because there's no way any of us could actually follow the melody, because you would never be in the right pitch. You might have a color, as they say in opera, which is what makes your voice different. So she took 7 months of classes. The first 2 were posture and breathing. Then she got into language, so she was speaking and singing in Italian, so get the words right. And then the following 4 were just, she sings 6 times on camera in the movie, and they were like just going through it, going through it, going through it. And the way we shoot this is that she has an earpiece. So everyone in the crew, that sometimes with extras could be up to, 400 people, is in front of her, and the only thing that we listen is her voice. There's nothing else, because we need to capture her voice and every sound that emerges from her. And then we mix it, and sometimes when you have 5% of Angie and 95% of Maria Callas, sometimes 1%, sometimes 30%, and at some point it's 50%. But of course, you don't want to make a movie with Maria Callas without Maria Callas' voice, but the way to do it is that she has to sing it, and she has to sing it by herself in front of everyone. So at the beginning it was very hard for her, and then she got used to it. We started in a very small set with no one else. It's like we were like, get out! It's like almost was like a sex scene, and you're like having everyone out. And then we slowly had more and more people, and she ended up singing in La Scala in Milan. It was the biggest opera house in the world, next to, but it was very impressive to see.
I'm afraid that's what we have time for. Thank you so much for the.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.